Hi there, thank you for joining us and welcome to the next session for Global Partnership Day. My name is Sarah Kelly and I'm excited to be speaking to you today about the future of partnerships. I'm joined by three incredible panelists, so let's introduce them. Firstly, I'd like to welcome Denon Jameson from Naked Wines. Denon is a partnership whiz, but really she's best known for her epic dance moves and her love for drinking wine. She's been with Naked Wines for the last 2 years as one of their strategic partnership managers and affiliate gurus. Surprisingly though, her favorite thing about working at Naked Wines is not the wine. It's getting to know the independent winemakers and hearing all the unique stories about how Naked Wines has helped their winemaking businesses. For fun, she teaches spin classes in Sydney. Think party on a stationary bike. And she brings the same energy and enthusiasm to her partnership role. So welcome, Denon.
Yay, thank you. Excited to be here.
Next up, we have got Zach Selby from Denzu. Zach is the Programmatic Solutions Director at Denzu, and he spent his career across a variety of digital areas, including partnerships, affiliate marketing, and programmatic. Zach is a digital expert with a deep understanding of the digital industry in ANZ. And I'm sure he's loving the pressure that we just put on him there with that digital expert intro.
Of course.
In his current role, Zach looks after the creation and expansion of solutions within Denzu, including programmatic, outcome-based buying, and data and technology product pillars. So welcome, Zach.
Thanks, Sarah.
And last but certainly not least, we have got Tom Howard from Shopback. Tom has over 10 years experience within the industry, specializing in the digital space and previously working for Groupon, both in the UK and in Australia. 3 years ago, he joined Shopback as the first Australian employee, actually working out of a little apartment in Piedmont back in the day. But since then, he's seen Shopback grow to over 1.4 million users and become one of the biggest partners in Australia. So welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Sarah.
Well, I think, we're all excited, especially me, to be here today to talk about the future of partnerships. But, it is quite a big topic to cover. So I think the best place to start is really looking at what does the future look like in terms of the customer. So let's jump in with you, Dan, and I'll put you on the spot first. If we look at, even just the last 5 years, the customer journey has evolved so much. What do you think the future customer journey is going to look like, and especially when it comes to the partnership channel?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we even have just seen it just expand and totally evolve within the past year. Consumers, because of the trends of COVID, have really learned and have looked to a lot of different avenues online as far as being just convinced shopping wise. So I think when we're looking at the customer journey, we're going to see that the customer is going to come through multiple touch points, and they're going to they'll come through the likes of a cashback partner, but then they'll also come through a content partner and be educated more a little bit about the brand. We've learned that Australians, they love loyalty. Are pretty loyal, and they love to support Aussie brands and Aussie companies. So I think we'll continue to see that and really learn about them through our affiliate channel.
Yeah, they definitely love wine as well. So you're in the right spot.
Into that.
What about, Zach, you obviously work across the customer journey so widely. Like, how do you think it's going to change over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a continuation of what we've already seen, right? Like, the consumer has more power than ever through the ability of choice. So, brands need to kind of navigate increased competition, and that's where the partnerships channel comes in such a useful light, to drive advocacy and integrated content and kind of deliver that more powerful message as opposed to just being price competitive.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think when we look at the customer journey, one of the big things that we do hear about is personalization. Everyone wants to be the Netflix of their industry. Tom, I'm going to direct over to you now. When it comes to personalization, it both now and in the future? Like, how can brands, partners, and agencies within the channel start leading that change and really drive better personalization?
Yeah, I think like personalization's huge, right? I think it's like making sure that whether you go onto Shopback or any other publisher or platform, like it's relevant to you as a user. I think like only talk around sort of Shopback stuff, but I think we're working really hard to make sure that we drive that value to brands, to make sure that they can use Shopback in more than one way. So for example, yes, you can give cash back to all users, but how do we help brands slice and dice the Shopback database and make sure that they can, I don't know, reactivate churn customers if they want to target specific. So for example, if Denon wants to target people that buy alcohol, that's a really personalized cohort that she might want to hit. So really working with people like that. But I think personalization will only lead to better conversion and better results for users and brands. So I think for us at Shopback, we're working hard on it, but I think I can see a lot of different publishers out there working really hard in this space as well.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. I think especially if you're trying to target an audience that perhaps buys alcohol but is also specifically buying a different category as well. Like that's a great avenue. And thanks for mentioning you work at Shopback, because I wasn't sure with your t-shirt there.
There you go. But I think it's also interesting. Like we see a lot of brands do it. For example, if you've got like an OTA hotel company, but then you've got another brand that might really complement that in terms of activities. So just really trying to work there in terms of personalizing. So if you've got someone who's going to go book a hotel, how do we also give them options, whether it's activities or car insurance or travel insurance or even car hire, stuff like that. And I think for us, it's just working harder in that space to make sure that we deliver that content.
Yeah, nice. What about Denon on your end? Like anything that you've been sort of looking at or get excited about when it comes to personalization?
Yeah, I mean, I think as our company, we're really growing and getting smarter. But something that we're looking at doing is doing personalization for the new customer, because there is so much choice out there, especially when it comes to wine. And we have something very unique to offer the customer. You get access to exclusive wines created by independent Aussie, New Zealand winemakers. I mean, the best independent Aussie New Zealand winemakers. So, we're looking at how we can personalize that first customer journey, that first touch point, and then continue to educate them within 30 days after they purchase. So that's something fun that we're working towards internally. But then, like Tom said, talking with your different partners via affiliates and learning how can you personalize your company message to the consumer to get that first acquisition, as well as can get continued conversions through your platform.
I think if we almost take a step back and Zach, we all heard your intro. You're quite a big deal. But I think
it's a big dog.
Zach, I think one of the best things that you bring to the table in this conversation is working at Denzu. You work across so many channels, we work with so many different types of brands. Like, how do you think this channel is evolving in terms of where it sits? Like, let's say in 5-10 years, like, do you think a CMO is going to be looking at this channel, and how do you think that's going to have changed?
Yeah, certainly. I think there's almost two stories here. There's like the local AU one, right? Where like the take up of the channel is quite moderate in comparison to the UK and US. So I think in 5 to 10 years, CMOs can't argue with the ROI that this channel provides. So it's just going to be a more kind of pivotal tool in the acquisition mix. But I think shared globally, we're going to continue, or CMOs are going to continue to lean into it for its performance benefits, but also expand into its branding ability. I think the beauty of the channel and working with like integrated partnerships and driving brand advocacy is that ads don't appear as like an ad. It's a lot more integrated in nature. It's a lot more authentic, and you kind of get that huge benefit off the back of that of generating loyal, high lifetime revenue. So in summary, I think the CMO sentiment will be positive, and it's a definitive part of their marketing mix.
What about for you, Dan? And already in your business, is it? I know you've got quite senior marketing and growth roles, like, is it becoming more prominent, more of a conversation piece?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that we're even looking at how we can utilize the affiliate partnership space for not just the new acquisition. It's narrowing and hitting the right customer through different conversion incentives for our partners, as far as, paying a little bit more for the right demographic to really make sure that we're targeting our messaging correctly, but also looking at how we can continue to just narrow in on the high lifetime value customer through repeat offers or through more exploratory content-based partnerships. And that's something that I'm really excited to see, because I definitely, even through these past few months, you've seen a lot more publishers coming onto the affiliate space, because now they're open to not just being paid a media spend for an article. They're open to, looking at integrating a strategic partnership and being incentivized on CPA or cost per acquisition, or even linking up with multiple partners, which I think that's even is what's going to happen in the future. I think that we've even been chatting with Shopback on how we can be smarter by reaching out to other people within the businesses and not just have that one person, the one affiliate person. I think that in the future we'll, like Zach said, the CMOs are going to come into the conversation and really looking at how you can utilize this space to really grow.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one as well, because I think with a lot of people, they come into the channel, or actually, if I rewind, say like 3 years ago to when we first launched here, to the conversations we have now, they're wildly different. And I think like there was a thing maybe 3 years ago where they would open an affiliate program and they would focus on a specific metric, and that might be new customers, it might be just pure revenue. And then over time, I think as publishers have bolted on new awesome features and different ways of working, now the conversations are way deeper. So you could be speaking with obviously someone whose KPI is new customers, but then as a business, they're using the affiliate channel to drive new customers, revenue, pump out brand messaging through influencer campaigns. Like there's various different things now that they use like these publishers for. So I think from a CMO's perspective, obviously there's way more value in what they previously thought the channel was. And I don't know whether that's just been an education thing or just generally as the channel's grown, they've seen that it's actually a really good lever for them.
How do you think, Tom, that like partners can best respond to that? Like if they're going to really be elevated in the conversation, how can they prepare for that now? As
in publishers or brands?
Publishers.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one. Like I think when brands want to spend in a specific space, I believe that they also want a huge amount of value. So the same way that, I don't know, if a brand goes and spends in Facebook and Google, they have hyper targeting, they can do all sorts of different things, right? And I think from a publisher perspective, the way that we can grow and become a really big pillar of like a brand's marketing is to make sure that we continuously evolve and make sure that we always bolt on these new products that they can use us in similar ways that they might use someone like a Facebook or Google, but then also ways that they can't use Facebook and Google, and give them different ways of, I don't know, targeting customers, retargeting, driving AOV, helping them amplify brand messages, influencer campaigns, all that sort of stuff. But a huge amount of that is education. So how do we get obviously in front of the right people and then let them know the different things that they can do?
Yeah, it's definitely, I think it's definitely being elevated. I mean, look at like Instagram just announced they're launching their own affiliate program. Like it's definitely on people's radars a lot more. I think with all those kind of, I guess, touch points and being more prominent in the conversation, is attribution going to be the biggest thing that we focus on above anything else?
I'll leave this one to you, Zach.
Pressure question for the group.
Just palming it to Zach. Mate, Zach.
Sure. I mean, look, traditionally, I don't know if our channels necessarily attributed correctly, like on a last touch model. I think it does some partnership models a favor and others not. And obviously with that expansion into branding, last click, touch attribution model isn't really that relevant anymore. But with cookies and other things disappearing, attribution's becoming a bit of a wider conversation for all channels. So I think like everyone else, we need to kind of cooperate, work with weighted attribution modeling, and kind of adjust the partner mix and payout models based on what the data tells us moving forward.
Yeah, I don't know if you've read the IAB survey they released this year, but I think it was content partners were the second most valued, but then 85% of people were only paying out on last click. And I was like, there's definitely a gap here that we've got to address in the future.
Bit of a mix, yeah.
I want to take a little bit of a sidestep, and instead of talking about the channel overall, I kind of want to talk about the people within it, which is definitely the three of you. If we're anticipating all these changes that might come, like attribution, personalization, that journey, how does that change what the role of an affiliate marketer is? And I think, Dan and I'm going to start with you here, because obviously you're very much in the day-to-day of this. Like, what skills are going to evolve, and what skills does a partnership manager need to develop now to future-proof themselves for later?
Yeah. I mean, I even feel that it's a bit of networking and a bit of sales, because you have to take some time to really talk to all the different publishers that you could potentially work with. I mean, there's just so many out there, and I think that it's important to also have somebody within your brand having a connect relationship with at least your top three best performing partners. So even if you use an agency, like that's great. I think that there's a lot of value in that. But there's also value in having the direct link for, Naked Wines and Shopback. And so I can always just bother Tom with any crazy ideas that I have. And, sometimes I'll come back and be like, maybe. There's a lot of value in having that, that nice relationship. And I think that's very important.
What about Tom? Like, you're obviously working with a lot of advertisers.
Yeah.
What sort of skills are we missing?
I don't think it's like what we're missing. I'm just trying to think of the things that say, like, some of our best partnerships that we have on Shopback, trying to think of like traits and things that people have. I think some of them, so for example, is really good internal stakeholder management, I think is a really good one. So what I mean by that is some of the best partnerships we have are people who can connect us, or open the conversation to way bigger than just sort of maybe what it started off as. So for example, it was around new customer acquisition, and they really help obviously get people from different teams, whether it's branding, influencers, whatever it is, and really connect those dots. But I think the best partnerships are, and it kind of touches on what Denon was just saying, it's people that let us completely under the hood on their side of the business. So we know everything they're trying to achieve out of the program or the platform or everything. And then same, that takes the time to completely understand Shopback and the best things that work on our platform. Because I think once you marry those two together, both sides are obviously just going for the same thing. Whereas I think there's potentially sometimes people, I don't know, for example, there's different placements on something like Tech Radar versus Shopback that will work in completely different ways. So if you look at it, it's like the channel and you just go one size fits all, it doesn't work. But if you spend time really getting to understand the different partners, I think that's probably the best way to get the successes.
Yeah, in terms of my feedback there, I think it's going to be echoing a bit what's already said, but I think it's largely going from specialist to generalist, right? Like, not just being, performance skewed. We now have to be branding hybrids. Again, piggybacking on Tom's comments, a bit of a fundamental business knowledge, right? Like understanding your client or your advertiser, what's valuable for them, and then extracting that value from every partner you work with, because no two models are the same, right? Websites work in a myriad of ways. So just kind of aligning benefits for something that works with all. And I think also taking a step out of our space, just within the wider media kind of context, right? If we're leaning into branding as well now, we have to understand other channels and their value and kind of be more agnostic with investments, not just flog the horse that we're aligned to.
Yeah. I think just kind of echoing off of what everyone says, and this is what I see as well with brand to brand partnerships, is you need to take the time to understand your partner's objectives, and really then think through what you have to offer, and how you can assist that. And it's going to be different for every partner that you work with, every publisher that you run on, because they all have different audiences, they have different value adds and assets that they can provide.
It sounds like it's definitely going to be really focused on that kind of relationship piece as well. Like, do you think the role of someone managing partnerships is almost going to become a lot more commercial? Like, that's going to become a more important skill than say traditional marketing background?
I'd say it helps. Definitely, because I think there's definitely a commercial aspect there, but I think it's more it's just taking the time. You can learn a lot of that stuff, right? But I think it's more taking a lot of time to understand both sides. Because as soon as you do that, like the partnership should grow massively, because everything you're doing is completely aligned on both sides. And I think is when you have, the problem is sometimes, I think, from, say, let's just take Shopback as an example. If you don't know what someone's really in the channel for, it's super hard to recommend them specific things to do. You're kind of just guessing. So I think the partnership and the relationship's really, really key. The commercial bit's definitely obviously there because you negotiate CPA, right? We're talking around commercials, but I'd say the partnership relationship bit's the biggest bit.
Nice. I think we've talked a lot about the exciting parts, about the predictions, trends, future of the channel, and what we can expect. I want to focus now a little bit on what I'm going to word it as like the future that's forced. So the change that's sort of most forceful in the industry. And I think hands down at the moment, that conversation definitely starts with ITP and cookies. Zach, I'm going to look to you here. Like, how can we adapt to meet, ever-changing ITP requirements and really kind of prepare for that cookieless future?
Yeah, definitely. Again, I think there's two stories here. The first thing is probably recognizing what we do quite well in this space. One of the big things with cookies going is the ability to accurately target. And the one thing that everyone leans back on is contextual targeting. And for us, that's a no-brainer, right? Like, no one contextually targets better than this space. Again, because it doesn't really appear as an ad, you're integrated within the service and you're providing a benefit to the consumer. So in terms of like targeting, contextually, we're not really threatened because we do it quite well. I think linking back to the earlier point on attribution, that's kind of where cookies and look back windows and tracking methods can be a bit shaky. But again, it's kind of keeping up to date with the latest information, implementing server-to-server tracking, working with weighted attribution modeling, and just making sure you're kind of investing in those things to set you up for the future. But truth be told, many things are still developing. I think iOS announced changes every day. So at Denzu, and I think a lot of our agencies in this space, just be across the information, invest in first-party data, and kind of be agile when those changes do come.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things working with an agency like Denzu is that you can get that sort of strategic knowledge and keep at the front of everything as well. Do you think that people are prepared enough for what's coming? I mean, especially now that Chrome's kind of looking to follow suit. It's definitely on the radar conversation-wise, but are people actually doing something about it?
Certainly from a partnerships perspective, because tech vendors, like Partner Ice have done a lot of the hard legwork truthfully and kind of advise on the best kind of tracking setups. And again, we're pretty well geared in the way the channel functions, not just from targeting, but also conversions happen almost instantly because we're quite bottom funnel in nature. More widely, it's business by business. A lot of Denzu clients are quite well prepared because they're working with an agency that's done the research, and they've also kind of been investing in first-party data. So they're quite set up there. But yeah, every brand's different, and I'm assuming some will get a shock when those changes do roll out and they haven't done their homework.
Yeah, I think there's I'd say for like the last year and a half, there's always been the thing where it's like we need to move to server or look at different things outside of what we've always had, and that's always been the chat. But I think it's always not been a massive priority. Whereas now, yeah, some brands are scrambling to obviously get it done. I think that the changes are they're annoying, but they're also awesome in a way that it's pushing brands to push to things like server or full app to app integrations and really future proofing. Whereas maybe in the last couple of years, there just hasn't. It's been a nice to have, but not a necessity.
Are you trying to are you having to kind of push that conversation along as well, Tom, from your end to make sure advertisers are compliant?
Yeah, like I think we push it pretty hard, and have done for like the last 2 years. And you know, with a lot of like the major brands, a lot of them already, they're absolutely fine. But I think it's just like the difference between, I don't know, a pixel integration versus a server to server, there's quite a bit more work involved, right? So I think it's been one of those things that's always been pushed back, and it's like, we'll get to it. And it's one of those things where it gets pushed back in sort of tech sprints and things, whereas now it's kind of getting pushed forward. But it will always be a massive focus. Like I think for us as a loyalty cashback platform, tracking is like pivotal in customer experience, because if it doesn't track, no one gets cashback. So for us, it's like we have a big team in Singapore that work on this, and make sure that we're working with brands to give them any info that we possibly can on the why. But I feel like the recent changes kind of create the why. They don't even need to listen to us anymore.
Do you think because if we're going to have to start using first party data, that we're going to start working better across wider teams, like affiliate will become less siloed in the future?
I hope so. I think I really hope so. Like I think we already see it with a lot of our like really strong partnerships. It's already there, and I think it's only a matter of time, right? I think it's the more cool publishers that maybe keep popping up out in different areas, that will also add value to brands where it sits outside of maybe like a new customer acquisition or a pure revenue metric. So yeah, I really do hope so. I think more and more, the more of that we get, the better I suppose the industry is going to get.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think it's just such a valuable tool, this channel, to drive first party data beyond obviously kind of refreshing your on-site experience. Every time you work with a new partner, you just instantly gain access to their entire user base and can, siphon off a huge amount of that traffic to your site. So a huge amount of the legwork's done. It's just an awesome tool to kind of drive that database.
Nice. Well, hopefully everyone takes this on board and frantically scurries away to start getting prepared. Look, I think you've all given like some awesome predictions and trends today. Like I've personally really enjoyed this conversation, and I think it's really valuable in terms of things to actually walk away and think about. To wrap us up, I want to ask what I like to call everyone's favorite final question in panels. I want to know, what are you most excited about when it comes to the future of partnership marketing? And Tom, I'll start with you.
Oh God, wasn't expecting that to come straight to me, but I think I love new stuff. Like I think, and when I talk about new stuff, it's just like new tech, new things that can add value to both sides. Like when we talk about it's like users and merchants. So I'm excited about, you look in sort of the US and Europe, and you see some really cool publishers and models and different ways of doing things. And I'm really excited, obviously, to see a lot of that come to Australia. So for me, yeah, it's just new cool tech.
Yes, Denon?
Yeah. For us, it's really just getting the opportunity to personalize the offer, and as well as not just the offer to the customer, but also to the publisher to incentivize them. Because of course, we do love new customers, but we want the high lifetime value customers. So being able to utilize this space to do that, I think it's going to be really special, and it's going to really help our business grow. And then I want to also end with a little advice, especially for brand affiliate managers like myself. We started affiliate back in July and didn't really have much knowledge about it within Naked Ones, not just in Australia, but the US and the UK. And one thing that I've learned, and I encourage other brands out there, is to ask around, at any retail events, ask questions. I've learned so much just by, reaching out to other brands and just taking their brain, what works for them, and then trying to how can I adapt this within my KPIs and my goals within Naked Wine. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you just feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Just we can have a glass of wine and chat.
That's how she draws them in. Just come with a glass of wine.
Do it, yeah. So yeah, there you
I
go.
love it. Zach?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've spoken a lot about branding today, and from my perspective, affiliate marketing kind of being rebranded as partnerships is really just that inclusion of higher funnel partners and tapping into the branding space, which is what is really exciting because it takes us from a media channel to a method of marketing, through a unique array of partnerships and payment models and validation methods. You can address anything at any stage and kind of just be way more flexible and drive what's actually valuable.
I love that term, method of marketing.
Unbelievable.
I'm totally going to steal that line as well. Look, I'm definitely excited. Like, thank you guys so much for your contributions and your insights. Like, it is not an easy topic where I've asked you to essentially Mystic Meg predict the future, but I think you all did a great job under the pressure. To our audience, thank you so much for watching. Please do stay tuned for more great sessions coming up. Thanks, everyone.